practice if you were to have missed appointments and how that all works for yourself. So I'll palm it off to Ellie, and at the end, hopefully we can get to all these awesome questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. I'll share screens quickly. I made a couple of changes to the slides actually while we're in that conversation, because based on the conversation that we're having, is that, you know, definitely a desire from clinics to be able to see what the daily billings are. I won't go into this today except to show you that with AI and with MediQo, you can facilitate this with not a lot of effort. So assuming that your PMS is connected with MediQo, you can actually see in the MediQo appointment book what the daily billings are overall, per doctor and per appointment. So this is obviously de-identified, so we're not seeing any patient information, but this is just a quick example of seeing there that you can see this appointment 393, this appointment 106, this appointment 27, etc. So what this will allow you to do as a practice manager or a clinic owner is to look at, we don't want to put our doctors in competition, but who are our high earners, and maybe where there's some opportunities to optimize how we're billing and who is billing based on the real numbers, and these are coming in real time, excuse me. Another one I want to show you, if you're thinking about GP care management plans, is that traditionally there's sometimes a bit of a hesitation or a reticence to do this, because if you don't do it correctly, then sometimes Medicare has issues with subsidizing. So one thing that MediQo and AI certainly can bring in is that it will listen to your consult like with a normal scribe tool. Uh-oh, dogs are about to bark. Sorry, terrible timing. Thank you, stop it. You can, with a scribe tool like MediQo, it can listen to your normal appointments, and then based on what's happening in that consult and the context of the patient, it'll generate a care plan in the background automatically for you. So you don't need to type in and say, you know, please create a care plan and here's all the information. It can see that clinical context based on the consult that you're having, based on the history of that patient, and we're the only provider to have this in a Medicare compliant format. So it's not like, you know, throwing it into ChatGPT or getting a template from Google. This is actually your patient information based on what they've said in the correct formats for you. So I won't spend too much time there, but I did just want to give you a quick look and give you some excitement, I suppose, about the way that some of these tools are helping to support clinical practice and also helping to support revenue growth inside the practice, so that if you've set your strategy and you know these are things you want to focus on, I suppose there's some comfort that this doesn't all have to be done manually. And I know that that's a big help when we're all stretched as we are. What we are here to talk about today, and something that's really exciting that's happening in our industry lately, is the introduction of AI tools. Most of you will be familiar with using AI in scribes, but not so many practices have actually experimented yet with AI reception and what that can do to increase productivity and increase revenue in your clinic. So I'm going to be annoying and ask you to talk to me in the chat as well. And I'd love to just see a quick thumbs up or a yes. Has anyone heard of an AI receptionist? Is this something that you're across, that you're hearing about in your networks at the moment? A couple of yeses. No for Dimna, good. Need more info? We've got more info coming for you, Gail. You'll be very happy. All right. Another show of hands, who's actually listened to one? So it's one thing to have heard it, but who's actually heard this in practice? Who's seen what this can do? Couple of no's, couple of yeses. Cool. I've got good news for you. We're going to listen to one today. And this might be a bit redundant as a question, but do we have anyone in the room who has an AI receptionist in place in their practice? Or has trialed one? Woohoo, Top Health, look at you go. Lots of no's. All right, we'll see if we can, maybe Top Health will have some feedback for us after on what their experience has been. Otherwise, for the rest of you, let's take you through it. One of the reasons why AI receptionists are really increasing in popularity is because on average, clinics are missing between 30 to 60% of inbound calls. Now, I don't say this to ascribe any blame. This is happening because we have patients calling us when the lines are already in use. This could be after hours, this could be when the clinic's closed, and so it's a very normal problem that practices are going through. But a question to ask yourself, especially when you're looking to increase revenue in your clinic, is what's the impact of that? If I'm missing 30 to 60% of calls, and we know that a proportion of that is going to be patients wanting to book in, what am I losing as a practice? That, you know, the demand's there, but I'm not able to keep up with the supply. And I know you're thinking about people in this moment, but I'm going to show you some AI that might make things a bit easier. So let's do a quick exercise. We'll work this out together, and you can do this separately too. I'm going to put some sort of demo numbers down here that are representative of general practices generally, but feel free to work this out alongside with your real numbers. I'll throw to the group here if you can add to the chat to me. How many doctors do you have? Let's do per clinic as an average if you've got multiple clinics, but how many doctors are in your clinic per clinic at the moment? If you drop it into the chat for me. 2? 6, okay. 6. 6. 13, woohoo. Awesome. All right, I might put down, just for argument's sake, 2 to 4, because I think that'll cater for the smaller clinics, but also the ones that are getting larger. One thing to note, if you do have a clinic that's got 13, 14, 20, 50 doctors, etc., is that any losses that you see in this space are obviously going to be, extrapolated. They're going to get bigger, they're going to be magnified, right? Because if you're missing, calls for 2 doctors, it's a whole different story to if you're missing calls for 20. So just keep that in mind when you're doing these calculations too. Now, can anyone estimate how many calls their clinic gets per day? Reception calls. You've got this reporting often in your IVR systems, but you might just have a ballpark as well on how many calls reception's getting a day. Not bookings necessarily, just calls. You want to put that in chat? Yeah. 200, yep, not sure. You'll know, Maria, if your phone's ringing over and over and over again and your team never get a break, that's usually a good indication that you're pretty maxed out there. Yeah, I'll put 150 to 200 for the sake of this this calculation. But like I said, feel free to tweak it for your clinic. Anyone have an idea about what percentage of those would be booking calls? Is it half? Is it 10%? What are your thoughts? 80% booking calls. Wow, Gail. Any others? Some thoughts on what percentage? 60? Yeah, wow. In that case, these numbers are going to scare you because for my example, I put 20. So when we think about the potential ROI for those who have put 50, 60, 70%, etc., potentially will double what our calculations are for your clinic here. Yeah. And then finally, last question I'll ask you on this bit is what's your average revenue per consult? So we're charging 80 for a standard consult? Are you doing standard Medicare plus a gap, plus a like an out-of-pocket? Are you entirely private billing? What are the fees looking like if you had a guess at sort of an average consult? We've got 90 from Marias. I'll put down for argument's sake 100, and we know that there's a range here, right? This could be an $80 consult, it could be a $120 consult. So if we calculate this, we've got a standard clinic with 3 to 4 doctors looking at 150 to 200 phone calls per day. And if we said that 20% of those were booking calls, if we answered every single one of those calls, let's assume that we had all the people or all the AI to actually answer every time the phone rings, during business hours, during peak periods, after hours, etc. We're looking at a potential booking value of $3,000 to $4,000 per day. Now, you can come back here and work this out for your clinic. You'd be looking at 150 or 200 calls a day. So how many calls per day times your average revenue per consult. So do this number over here, second column, times the amount per appointment. Know that it's going to be some give and take because not every appointment's the same, especially if you're not pulling from your actual PMS data. And then look at what's 20% of that. If 20% were booking calls. If it's 50% booking call, 80% times it by that, right? So let's say 200 times $100. What's 20% or 50% or 80%, whatever your percentage of booking calls number is, and that's what's going to get you to your total potential booking value. Now, this is super important because when we talk about clinic growth, a lot of clinics will say, oh, I thought maybe I need to do some more marketing, or maybe I need to, link up with some other healthcare professionals. As a marketer at heart, I would love to tell you that those things will be really useful, and they will. But you can see how, yes, Gail, I will repeat for you. You can see how you can not spend money on marketing, but just answer the demand you have, just book in the clinic, the calls that you have today, and really dramatically increase your revenue. Just for Gail, one more time here, I'll do the metrics you want to be looking at if you're working this out alongside me as an average. And we can, by the way, put in a chat a meeting link if you want us to do this with you. We can hold your hand through it, no charge. If you're doing it by yourself on a piece of paper on the side, look at how many phone calls you get per day as a guess. Look at what's the revenue per consult. So phone calls per day times revenue per consult. This will give you if all your calls are booking calls. If they're not, and only 20% are, or only 50% are, or only 80% are, times that big number by what percentage are booking calls. And that will tell you if every single one of your phone calls was answered, that were booking related, that were bookings for you, what's that likely to mean for your clinic from a revenue perspective? You don't have to spend more money on marketing. You don't have to run ads. You don't have to hire anyone to spruik your clinic. You're not doing anything unconscionable. You're literally answering the phone when patients want to book in, and you're saying, what's the value of that? Now, we talked before and said that 30 to 60% are not answering those calls. So if we looked at, if 40% were answered today from the figures that we ran, this clinic would be doing $1,200 a day in booking revenue. If they're answering 70%, they're doing $2,000 a day in booking revenue. So if you're getting pressure from your clinic owners, or you are a clinic owner and you're really looking at how do we increase in a very easy way your practice revenue, this is a pretty no-brainer, simple solution. Even if you're answering 70%, this is really to show you that you're still leaving a ton on the table. Because, if you extrapolate this out to per week, per month, per year, this is tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars in appointments. People wanting to book in, and when they can't, potentially they go elsewhere. Alrighty, I want to validate some of these numbers because there might be some people in our chat today thinking, how on earth could I have enough receptionists to answer every single one of those calls and be able to bill for every one of those appointments? So please stay with me if that's what you're thinking. What we're looking at on screen is a real dashboard of a clinic that's using MediQo's AI receptionist to answer their booking calls. And one of the things that's really cool about MediQo is that not only do the calls get answered, booked in, put into your PMS, confirmed, etc., but as a clinic owner or clinic manager, you can also see what the impact of that is. So if we're looking at a 30-day period, which is here, you can see that there's about 130 booking calls per day, You can see on the right there that 734 of those calls were bookings, and that's about 17% of the total revenue. And just over half of those consults have been completed and paid for. So if you do the maths and you look on the left there, we said a clinic charges $80 on average per consult. Once all said and done, these are just the paid appointments in that $32,000. Once everything's paid, you're looking at $58,000 in appointments for that clinic. Now, every clinic's different. Even in this chat, every clinic's different. So it's worth looking at these numbers. And if you do want to book in a session, more than happy to take you through the numbers for you so you can see what that would look like. But really, it helps create a very strong case for introducing technology that can book appointments for you when your patients call, even if your reception staff are already tied up. Now, you might also be thinking, I've got online bookings. They can just book that way. They can, but they don't. And that's something that's really interesting about patient psychology, right? Is that you'll have certain cohorts within your patient groups or within your patient populations that are more than happy to book online. And that's a great thing if you've got appointments coming in that way. But if you know that you're missing calls or that you're finding that, that your reception team can't keep up, then this is something as practice owners and managers you really should be looking at, because we can try to change the behavior, even if we have on our phone system say go book online. When they don't do it, or they can't be bothered, or they want to do it hands-free while they're driving, we don't want to lose that revenue. All right, if you want some help doing this ROI, it's a simple calc, but I know there are lots of variables and you surely got lots of questions. Feel free to click that link into the chat. You can book in a little time slot with us. We can run you through it. No obligation at all. There's no charge, but just to show you what it would look like and whether this is something that's worth exploring. Otherwise, if you just drop calc or me please or yes please or something into the chat for me, what I can do is follow up with you afterwards and we can get something booked in if that's something that you're interested in, to work out how much you'd be looking at potentially making if you didn't have that missed appointment revenue. Now, who wants to listen to an AI receptionist in action? I had a couple in the chat before saying they hadn't heard one or they were interested in some more info. Have we got any takers? Maria's yes. Shani, yes. Beautiful. Alrighty. Yes, please. I'm going to go to the next slide. I'll hit play and just let me know if any of you can't hear it because we're sharing system audio. Before I do, one little disclaimer here. It's one thing to have cool tools, but I want to give you some assurances about security, because in healthcare, we know that growth without security is not growth at all. We're looking after precious data. And so I really want to give you that reassurance that the tools we're showing you today are compliant with industry-leading security standards, and they integrate with major PMSs. So best practice, MediQo, Clinico, Halexi, medical directors in its final stages of integration. And so this is technology that's going to simplify and improve your workflows, not make them more complex. All right, let's have a listen.
Hello, this is Jess, MediQo AI assistant. I can talk in other languages too if you prefer. How can I help you today?
Hi Jess, could I book an appointment please?
Sure. What's the reason for your visit so I can choose the right appointment type?
I've got a sore throat.
Thanks. Since a sore throat can be contagious, a telehealth appointment is often a good option if you're comfortable with that. Do you prefer telehealth or an in-person visit?
I think in person would be fine. Have you got a female doctor?
Yes, Dr. Emily Carter is a female GP. Would you like the first available appointment with Dr. Carter?
Yes, please. What time is that?
The first available with Dr. Emily Carter is tomorrow at 9:10 in the morning. Would you like to book that?
That sounds good, thank you. I'll book at 9:10 a.m. Is there parking nearby?
Yes, there's parking right out the front. Can I have your first name, please?
Sure, my first name is Ellie. Also, I'm wondering, is the clinic next to Woolworths?
That's right, we're right across the road from Woolworths. What's your last name, please?
Not, N-O-T-T.
Thanks, Ellie. What's your date of birth, please?
6th of February 89. And Jess, can I also ask your opening hours, please?
We're open every day from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. What's the best mobile phone number to contact you on?
0423 247 643. And Jess, do you bulk bill for tomorrow's visit?
Yes, we're a fully bulk billing clinic, so your consult will be fully covered by Medicare. I'll just confirm your details before I book. Ellie Knott, date of birth, 6th of February 1989, mobile 0423 247 643, and an in-person general consult for a sore throat with Dr. Emily Carter tomorrow at 9:10 in the morning. Is that all correct?
That's correct. Thank you, Jess. Alrighty, so MediQo's AI receptionist can sync with your PMS like we talked about, so everything that you book is automatically in your PMS. You don't need to do any double handling later. The AI receptionist can triage. It's got the capability to book in different practitioner types for mixed clinics. So if you've got physio, for example, or allied or specialist, etc., within the clinic, it can determine the reason for visit and then suggest the appropriate appointment for that patient. You can set different appointment types for different lengths for different appointment types. So let's say a new patient must be 45 minutes, or an immunisation must be 15 minutes, or maybe you've got a doctor that says, Dr. Smith always wants 60-minute appointments. So all that can be configured in the system so that we're not just sticking to standard appointments. It can cater for everything that you would normally do if the human receptionist were answering. You can set up rules on questions and answers for parking, for fees, for disability access, and all those FAQs are completely controlled by you. The other thing that's really cool about this technology, and it's super important, right, that any AI that's assisting us can do what our reception team can do. One thing that MediQo can do is schedule multiple practitioner appointments. So let's say you've got an immunisation appointment or a care plan and you want a nurse to be present as well as the doctor. We can configure that in the back end so that if that appointment type gets booked, then what happens is the system will look up the doctor availability, the nurse availability, and then book into both of their calendars. If one of them's not available, then it will wait and find a time, not wait, but it'll search forward in the calendar to find a time so that they are both available. In terms of the customization, you can customize the name, the gender, the voice, the call scripts, any emergency messaging you want to do. And the AI can take up to 50 calls concurrently and speak more than 140 languages. So if you've got clinics who are in a demographic where maybe English is not the first language, you don't have to say, can you speak Mandarin or can you speak Hindi? The patient can just launch into their native tongue and it will automatically work for you. If any of you are interested, just click that Calendly link that I put into the chat earlier. And what we can also do in that call is give you a link so you can have a listen, have a talk and try. So if you know any other languages you want to test what the pronunciation sounds like, etc., then you can. You can also be rude, you can interrupt, you can ask it all sorts of things, and it will answer professionally the same way as your human receptionist would do, which is quite important. One other cool quick feature I'll tell you about is the blacklisting certain patients. So if you've got patients that are a bit naughty, they don't pay their bills, they're a bit abusive, we can actually prevent them from booking as well, and it'll do that based on the phone number lookup. So same as your receptionist, you might have some, uncooperative patients today that we think they're not a good fit for our clinic. The system can prevent them from booking as well, so that's often a comfort. Now, we've already looked at the total appointments booked, but I also want to show you a little bit more in depth on the reporting that you get if this is something you want, because you don't want to hand over to AI and then find that you don't know what's going on. You can see how many of these patients are new patients and how many appointments are booked. You can see the overall call sentiment and how many were cancellations. So that's handled as well. Reschedule's also handled. And you can also see your core metrics in a graph format. So that means the full conversation history, the call sentiment, how positive was the overall call, was there any, sort of cranky sounding patient on the other side? And this is really just a fraction of what AI can do for practice managers and for owners. Now, I want to switch gears and talk about another area in general practice that's massively underutilized, and I'm conscious of our time here too, because we'll wrap up very shortly. But earlier in our workshop today, we talked about MBS billing, and according to the RACGP, a staggering 20 to 30% of practices are underbilling through Medicare. Now, this is a huge revenue opportunity in your practice, not just, for example, that you don't have care plans or enough care plans as a proportion in your practice, but even in your standard consults. If you're meeting with patients and finding that you are eligible to claim for something under Medicare, but your doctors didn't know, then effectively the doctor's doing the work, but they're missing out on that billing, and so's the practice. So massive opportunity for revenue uplift here without really any additional work, similar to the AI receptionist model. I'll throw to the group very quickly here. Do any of you have confidence that your doctors are booking the correct MBS billing item numbers 100% of the time, or do we feel like there's opportunity here to maybe that we're missing some? Yeah, not all the time. Yeah. And I don't want you to feel bad about this, right? This is very normal. Medicare changes their item numbers. I know you're doing the updates about every month, so it's impossible to try to keep track of everything a doctor and a clinic has to do, and then try to remember changes with Medicare too. And so this is why MediQo has developed a missing billing from nurses to GP. Awesome, Gail, thank you. This is why MediQo has developed an MBS suggestion that sits within the platform. Now, I'll click play on this so you can see it happening as I'm talking through it. Basically, when you have MediQo's full AI platform, you'll have access to a scribe tool we talked about before that will listen to your consult, right, with permission. When it's listening to the consult, it's able to pick up what's the context of that conversation and cross-reference that patient consult with MBS Online and also with Proda. So if, for example, the patient is eligible for a care plan, that will flag in the system, or if a care plan's already been used or created for them, that will also show on the Proda connection side. What this is doing in that top little box there on the right-hand side is suggesting MBS item number 3 based on this consult. So the doctor doesn't have to remember. If I go to the next slide for you, they can also click.
Ellie, just to confirm though, so during the meeting, the consult, during the consult itself, as the consult's progressing, the MBS suggestions are pretty live, right?
Yep.
It kind of gives them the recommend that they don't even need to look up the item number, they don't need to look up eligibility.
That's right.
It just gives you the suggestion, and then they can dive into that a bit further,
exactly right. Yeah. Now we've recently put a search in place, so if you're thinking, oh, I thought that item number might be eligible, you can actually type that in and say, is it? And it will tell you yes or no based on that patient. And it's also obviously depends on the practitioner too, right? Like a nurse can claim for different things to what a GP can, to what a psych can, for example, as well. So yeah, that's all there automatically while you're in the consult. So all your medical notes are taken care of. We don't have time to show you everything the platform does today, but your medical notes are handled for you. The MBS suggestion is made for you, so you know exactly what to claim for, and you can open up and see the rationale why. So in this case, item number 36 and 73806, it'll explain that you can read and see why if you're interested. Over time, you'll probably just trust it. It's got a really, really high rate of accuracy here, and this is mean that you're not getting rejected by Medicare, essentially. All right. I think I'm pretty ready. I know we're right on time here, so I'll hand back to Jeff, but I'll leave you with this sort of final thought. Our clinics are possibly more stretched than ever before. I know you're feeling this when you're, at work, and we've got an aging population. So we've got staff at every level in the clinic trying to keep up. If you can make the right technology and operational choices to increase your practice revenue without additional strain on the clinic, right? We're in this session today because we want to improve, but we're also very cognizant of the fact that we're stretched. We're all stretched. So if you can do things with technology or put smart strategies in place that can help you increase your throughput, like Jeff says, in a way that doesn't add more pressure or more effort expenditure from the staff, then you're really doing something right. I'll be in the chat for a couple more minutes. If you do have questions, feel free to shoot them through. Otherwise, book in a quick session with me on that link that I pasted in the chat before. Happy to answer any other questions we didn't have time for. And there's also a QR code on screen if that's easier, if you want to do it on your mobile. Thank you, Jeff. The one question I get all the time, so I'll preempt it, is pricing. Everyone always says, oh, this is great, but it's probably really expensive. I'll make you set your minds at ease here that it's really not. With MediQo, the pricing for all tools, so that includes the full AI scribe, MediQo AI receptionist, unlimited access to the MBS billing suggestions, there's care plan generation, there's treatment plans, there's referral letters, there's a ton of things we can show you, but unlimited access for the clinic and for all your doctors, literally all your doctors, they're not paying individually for these tools, is between usually $500 and $800 a month, depending on the call volume. So when we look back and we say we can bill, maybe tens of thousands of dollars a year, either in MBS item numbers or AI receptionist missed bookings or, etc., you're starting to look at $500, $800 as being a really clever investment. We also offer 4 weeks free. MediQo offers 4 weeks free, completely no strings attached. This is not a 2-year contract with 4 weeks free. This is 4 weeks free to put it in the clinic, try it, learn, test, play, and decide whether it's a good fit. So you can assess it properly. I'll hand back over to Jeff. I'm sorry if I've kept any of you from lunch, and hopefully some good more questions coming that I can answer offline. Gail, yes, sits beside BP, the same as all the other scribe tools, so it integrates with, and same with a number of other PMSs as well. Thanks, Jeff.
Awesome, Ellie. Thank you. We'll go through, get some questions as well. But as well, if you want to, complete an assessment, what we call the revenue boost assessment. At your clinic, we go through your clinical throughput, workforce and recruitment, your incentives that you're missing out at the practice, your room utilization, and non-GP revenue. We also do a free assessment that definitely ties into exactly what Ellie's discussed as well. So I'll just dump our practice health check in the chat if you would like. We'll go to questions. So definitely feel free to stick on by. If you're leaving, thank you very much for joining and appreciate your time. But Maria is asking a question. So would this replace Lyrebird if doctors are using on MD and BP?
Yes, and much cheaper, I believe, depending on what your doctors are using. There are different tiers. There's one Lyrebird, I think, which was like $230 a month or something. So if you're looking at $500 for the whole month for every single doctor in the clinic, this also becomes a recruitment tool in some clinics that doctors will say, I really want to use AI, but I don't want to pay for it. And so if you as a practice can say, hey, no worries. We've got the AI receptionist. Yes, Gail, I'll type it in here for you. If you've got the AI receptionist, you've got the MBS billing, you're doing things which are passively increasing revenue in a really big way for your clinic. And then you're able to say to doctors, you've got all the scribe tools, you're generating your care plans, you've got your MBS billing. There's a ton of clinical tools in there. The daily billings that you saw, they don't have to pay for it. All of a sudden, you become a really attractive clinic from a recruitment perspective, right? Because they're not having to fork out hundreds themselves. Gail, it starts at $500 to $800 per month. When I say start, that most clinics are good at that size, but I know that we've got in a chat enterprise level clinics that have 10 plus clinics, etc. So in that case, we would just look at what's the core volume. Sometimes there are nuances to how group clinics set things up. So they might say, for example, I want one central number, and it's not an individual phone number for every clinic. So in that case, it's a slightly different pricing model. The tech's slightly different. But for all intents and purposes, imagine somewhere between $500 and $800. Yes, it would replace Heidi, and you didn't hear this from me, but you really should you should test. If this is something you're interested in, you should jump on, do a trial, and have a look at the accuracy side by side, because even questions like the dual bookings with nurses, the blacklisting patients, all that is functionality that only MediQo has. So it's going to make a big difference, and it's mean you're not double handling from a receptionist team side.
So definitely book in that call, Ellie, and then complete that return on investment assessment. The number of calls, what that actually costing you, and the opportunity as well. Any more questions?
I'll just say too, we try to spare you from a lot of the the clinical tools. Everyone sort of has seen scribes, but I know as practice managers and practice owners, you're looking at growth and revenue. So there's a ton we do on that side, but we haven't shown you that today because I know it's a lot to take in. There's a lot of action points I know from some of the stuff Jeff took you through as well. Yes, it does check with ProDAS, so it'll check for care plan eligibility based on what's already been utilised. Yeah.
And like Top Health's focus, 15%, guys, 15% is at least the average, what we want to initially target.
I can list all the benefits of MediQo for you, Gail, when we do a session. Let's book in, and I won't. I don't want to take everyone's lunch break. I've got a question for all of you, and I'm very curious. Actually, when we started, Jeff said let's focus on one key area to improve, and I'm wondering, having looked at, you probably come away with 10 things you want to improve. What's the priority for everybody who's still in the chat? Is there a one key thing that you're thinking I have to get onto this ASAP? What's number one on the action list for you? Yeah, financial drives everything, right? Like if you've got more money in the practice, then you've got potentially better quality employees, you've got, happier, better facilities. It powers everything. Yeah, good call. Yeah. I promise you are, Marius. I promise you are missing calls, and we can fix that for you.
Awesome. Any more questions before we wrap up? Systems and processes. Love it, go.
Everyone's energized.
I think we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for your time, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thanks, everyone. Good to see you.
Gail, there's a link in the chat, but stay on and then book in a meeting directly with Ellie right now. So
I'll see if we can grab your email too for anyone. If we do a follow-up email with a recording, we might just flick that over to everyone.